Let's go, champ. Here he comes.
Two men, two YouTube empires, two completely different reputations. One of them gives away private islands, builds wells in Africa, and pays for 1,000 blind people to see for the first time. The internet calls him a hero. The other one has been sued, investigated, banned from platforms, and dragged through headline after headline, and somehow still has tens of millions of people watching every single video. This is the story of the most loved YouTuber of a generation, and the most hated one. Same platform, same decade, completely different legacies. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are breaking down exactly why the internet decided to worship one creator and despise the other. Let's get into it. Let's start with the guy almost nobody has a bad word for, Jimmy Donaldson, better known as MrBeast. The origin story. Before the private jets and the $1 million giveaways, MrBeast was just a teenager in Greenville, North Carolina, uploading videos about Minecraft strategies to an audience of basically nobody. For years, and we are talking years, his channel barely moved. Some of his early uploads got a few hundred views. He kept posting anyway. That's actually the first reason people love him. The grind is real. He's not a Nepo baby influencer who got famous overnight. He spent almost a decade failing in public before anything clicked. The turning point. The shift happened when he started making videos about the idea of extreme content, counting to 100,000, watching paint dry for 24 hours, reading the dictionary. These weren't polished. They were experiments. But they taught him something crucial: retention. He became obsessed with watch time, with the psychology of why people click away from a video, and he reverse-engineered YouTube's algorithm almost like a scientist running lab experiments. Then came the format that made him a global name: big stunts, bigger stakes, and enormous cash prizes. Last to leave circle wins 500,000. I gave my 15 millionth subscriber a private island. 456,000 Squid Game in real life. Every video became an event. Why people actually love him. Here's the part that matters for this video: why the love is so widespread. 1. The philanthropy is constant, not a one-off PR stunt. MrBeast didn't just do one viral charity video and move on. He built an entire side operation, Beast Philanthropy, a separate channel where 100% of ad revenue goes toward feeding people, funding surgeries, building homes, and clearing medical debt. Whatever you think about the business empire around him, the sheer volume and consistency of the giving is hard to argue with. 2. He reinvests almost everything. For years, MrBeast was famous for barely taking a personal salary and pouring nearly all his revenue back into bigger videos. That for the audience, not for me reputation built enormous goodwill. Viewers feel like they're not just being entertained, they're watching someone build something and choosing to give the results away. 3. He feels accessible. Despite being arguably the biggest individual creator alive, MrBeast has cultivated an image of being a normal, slightly awkward guy who just really loves making content. He answers to Jimmy. He talks about his anxiety, his work schedule, his obsessive personality. That vulnerability makes an untouchable mega celebrity feel like someone you could have gone to high school with. 4. Universal, low controversy content. This is a big one. MrBeast's videos are almost aggressively inoffensive. No political takes.
No beef videos. No scandalbait.
In an internet economy built on outrage, he built an empire on the opposite: pure, high-budget spectacle that a 10-year-old and a 50-year-old can both enjoy without any cultural friction. 5. The numbers back up the sentiment. He's not just popular, he's record-breakingly popular. Fastest creator to certain subscriber milestones, one of the most watched channels on the entire platform, translated versions of his channel running in multiple languages. The sheer scale means his brand has become almost synonymous with YouTube itself for an entire generation of viewers. The small cracks because no one is universally loved. To be fair and balanced, MrBeast isn't controversy-free. There have been reports and lawsuits from contestants on his reality competition show alleging poor working conditions and inadequate medical support during filming. Criticism that is giving away money to the desperate format can feel exploitative, turning real poverty and hardship into content, even when the outcome helps the person. Debate over whether Beast Philanthropy is genuine altruism or a tax-efficient, brand-building machine. But here's the key thing: even his critics tend to frame these as fair critiques of a good person, not evidence that is a bad one. That distinction is exactly why he sits on the love side of this video, while the next guy does not. Now let's flip to the other side of the internet's emotional spectrum, Jake Paul. The origin story. Jake Paul didn't start on YouTube. He started on Vine, alongside his older brother Logan, as part of the early social media famous prank and stunt era of internet content. When Vine shut down, he pivoted to YouTube and built Team 10, a collective of young creators living together in a Los Angeles mansion, churning out daily vlogs. And almost immediately, the tone was different from MrBeast's story. Where Jimmy built quietly for years, Jake Paul exploded into infamy fast, largely because his content leaned hard into chaos, pranks on neighbors, loud parties, stage drama, and a persona built around being the villain everyone loves to hate. Why the hate started. 1. The neighborhood backlash. Some of the earliest viral moments weren't achievements, they were problems. News coverage from residents in his neighborhood described disruptive behavior, late-night parties, reckless activity outside his home, and general neighborhood disturbances that made national news. For a lot of people, that was the first impression they ever got of him, and first impressions stick. 2. The built-on-chaos business model. Jake Paul's content, especially in the Team 10 era, was frequently built around manufactured drama, fallouts with collaborators, public feuds, and storylines that blurred the line between real conflict and content strategy. Viewers increasingly felt like they were being played, watching manufactured beef designed purely for clicks rather than anything genuine. 3. Team 10 fallout. Several members of Team 10 came forward publicly alleging that the environment was manipulative, describing controlling behavior, financial disputes, and a culture where young creators were allegedly used and discarded once they'd served their content purpose. Whether or not you take every allegation at face value, the pattern of former collaborators speaking out negatively did lasting damage to his public image. 4. The boxing pivot. Respect from some, contempt from others. When Jake Paul moved into boxing, it actually split reaction into two camps. Traditional combat sports fans were furious that a YouTuber with limited boxing pedigree was getting massive paydays and headline fights, arguing it disrespected the sport and took opportunities from career fighters. Some of his opponents were also criticized as being past their prime or otherwise mismatched, fueling the argument that the entire venture was more theater than sport. Meanwhile, another chunk of the internet respected the discipline it took to actually train and step into a ring at all. This dual reaction is part of why he's such a lightning rod. He's simultaneously seen as a fraud and, by some, as someone who genuinely worked to reinvent himself. 5. Legal and reputational controversies. Over the years, Jake Paul has faced a string of legal issues and public controversies, including charges connected to protest-related property damage during unrest in Arizona in 2020 charges that were later dropped, scrutiny over his promotion of a cryptocurrency exchange that was later charged by regulators over unregistered securities offerings, and repeated accusations across relationships and business dealings of manipulative or exploitative behavior. Each individual controversy might have been survivable, but stacked together over years, they created a reputation that's very hard to shake. 6. The persona itself. Maybe the simplest explanation. Jake Paul built his brand on being unlikable on purpose. Loud, brash, confrontational, unapologetic. That's a legitimate content strategy. Hate-watching drives enormous numbers, and Jake Paul has openly acknowledged leaning into being a villain. But strategy or not, the emotional residue is real. A huge portion of the internet doesn't just disagree with him, they actively dislike him. The counter-argument fair and balanced. It's worth noting that Jake Paul has his defenders too. Supporters point out, he's built a legitimate business empire beyond content, including a boxing promotion company and a stake in his own athletic ventures. Some argue his boxing career, whatever you think of the matchmaking, has genuinely grown mainstream interest in combat sports and brought new audiences to the sport. He's spoken publicly about maturing, expressing regret over some of his earlier Team 10 era behavior. But even his own defenders tend to describe him as redeemed or growing, language that only makes sense if you accept the premise that there was a lot to redeem from in the first place. So what's the actual difference between these two? Because on paper, they're not that different. Both became famous young, both built content empires, both are savvy about what drives engagement. The difference comes down to a few core things. Consistency of values versus consistency of chaos. MrBeast's brand has been remarkably stable, big, generous, high-production spectacle. Jake Paul's brand has been built on conflict, controversy, and reinvention, which by definition creates winners and losers in public opinion every time. Who bears the cost of the content? In MrBeast's videos, the cost, time, effort, money, mostly falls on MrBeast himself, and the audience benefits. In a lot of Jake Paul's most controversial moments, the cost fell on neighbors, collaborators, or opponents, and that difference in who's affected shapes how forgiving people are. The algorithm of trust. Once an audience decides you're the good one or the bad one, it becomes a self-reinforcing loop. MrBeast's controversies get read charitably. Jake Paul's good moments get read skeptically. That's not necessarily fair, but it's how public reputation actually works. So there you have it, the most loved and the most hated creator to come out of the same era of YouTube, built from strategies that, on the surface, aren't even that different.